Fox 4's John Holt joins us with more in our investigation. John.
And Phil, Abby, lest anyone think we're about to give the bad guys the inside scoop, every stolen identity expert we talked to during our investigation assured us identity thieves probably already know. In fact, a 2012 study by ID Analytics estimates 2.5 million identities are stolen each year from the grave.
No, have not been back down there since it happened. It was too painful.
Even more than 50 years later, it's painful. Grace Boo along the banks of the Osage River.
The river has changed a lot with the lake being built.
Reliving that night, that call.
It's just a rough time to remember.
March 1963. Her sister Mabel, Mabel's husband Lee, and 2 of their 3 kids join another couple and their children for a weekend of fishing.
Lee loved to fish, and they went down and set out trot lines.
But late on the night of March 9th, 1963, with a storm brewing, the 4 adults left the kids in a cabin, promising they'd return soon.
The river came up and they went out to take the trot lines in and never came back.
As morning dawns, Grace's then 12-year-old niece alerts the camp owner. Their parents had vanished.
He was the one that called us and told us that they were missing.
Launching a massive, nearly 4-week search.
You can always hope for a while.
Gradually, one by one, searchers recover 4 bodies. And 6 kids, including the 5 on that fateful fishing trip, are suddenly orphans.
It was God's will. That's about all you can tell them.
The victims of a swirling, violent river, now buried in a peaceful rural Missouri cemetery.
This was my brother-in-law, Marvin Lee, and this was my sister, Mabel Jane.
And more than 5 decades later, Grace fears potential victims once again.
I have a big problem with that.
That is what we showed Grace about her sister's death certificate, posted online by the state of Missouri, featuring her mom's full Social Security number that we're blurring, and more. A veritable treasure trove of identity info.
I really have a big problem with it, with all the identity theft and all we have. I don't think anyone needs these Social Security numbers.
But anyone can find them right here on the Missouri Secretary of State's website. Just point and click to a massive file of death certificates 50 years old and older, dating back to 1910. Social Security numbers fully exposed. An open book on the dearly departed.
The Social Security numbers, the gateway, is the keys to the kingdom.
Overland Park fraud detective Byron Pierce has investigated hundreds of cases, and yes, some involving stolen identities of the dead.
What can you do with a Social Security number, even as old as this one?
Well, you can become someone that you're not.
Making it easier, a federal master death list used to cross-check and prevent that from happening launched in 1980. A Social Security spokesman confirms older names and numbers likely aren't on that list. Easy fodder for the fraudulent.
We should make it more difficult for identity theft thieves and perpetrators to be able to engage in this type of activity.
Most states do. Missouri is one of only a few states that allows such easy access to death certificates. Other states like Kansas, Oklahoma, and Minnesota restrict access or require registration. Why not Missouri? The Secretary of State's office says state law requires death records 50 years old or older to be transferred to the Missouri State Archives and be made available to the public. In a written statement, the office says the State Archives is in full compliance with the law. But our investigation raised red flags for the Missouri Bankers Association. It plans to meet with the Secretary of State about the easy access. We need to address this and see if we can help solve this problem, Association CEO Max Cook told us, adding, we need to put our heads together and see how we can fix this.
To me, it's disrespectful to everything.
Grace, who eventually helped raise her sister's kids, hopes it can be fixed. Lives lost don't need to be relived by someone else.
That Social Security number and that information was theirs. Nobody else needs it. Let them have peace.
A spokesman for the National Genealogical Society told us open records and privacy aren't in conflict. It's fine with limiting access to death certificates, but not with hiding Social Security numbers as we've done here. As for the victim, why should we care if the victim is dead? Well, stolen identity experts say the crime costs us all higher interest rates, premiums, and prices. John Holt, Fox 4 News, working for you.